We just wanted to start by asking you, how often do you speak together? What is it like working together? Do you pick up the phone and call each other whenever you like? How does it work?
Well, we actually spend a lot of time together, and it is mostly at the White House in the Situation Room, which is this room that is especially set up for secure conversations, the windowless domain that we spend a lot of time in. And we also talk outside of those formal meetings. But it's been a real pleasure for me to work with Bob over the last 9 months. And a lot of the decisions and the reasons we end up in the Situation Room are, pretty serious and challenging ones to tackle and try to come up with our best advice to the president. But Bob has a lot of experience, which I certainly appreciate, and also a good sense of humor, which makes everything a little bit better.
Most of my career, Secretaries of State and Defense weren't speaking to one another.
Precisely why we are.
In fact, sometimes it was even worse than
and it could get pretty ugly, actually. And so, it's terrific to have the kind of relationship where we can talk together, because the truth of the matter is, if the bureaucracies realize that the principals get along and work together and are on the same page, it radiates downward. And when people discover it's not career enhancing to try and set your principal's hair on fire because the other person is doing something horrible, it makes a huge difference, and not just at this level, but all through the bureaucracy and the interagency.
So what is it that by doing this and by sending this signal from the top that you are trying to change? You both talked a lot about taking the country in new directions for the 21st century, but what are you trying to prove by this in terms of actual implementation?
Well, I don't think we're trying to prove anything. It's just we get along, we work together well. I think it starts with, frankly, based on my experience, the Secretary of Defense being willing to acknowledge that the Secretary of State is the principal spokesperson for United States foreign policy. And once you get over that hurdle, the rest of it kind of falls into place. And I think it's really just a matter of, this is the way we work together. As I say, we're not trying to prove anything. It's just, this is what works, and this is how government ought to work.
Frank, I think that, when Secretary Gates was given this responsibility in the last administration, he immediately began making clear that we had to have a coherent and unified foreign policy. The instruments of American power in defense, diplomacy, and development needed to be working together. And before he was a part of the Obama administration, he had gone on record several times talking about the need for us to work more closely together between our civilian capacity and our military force. So when President Obama asked Bob to stay on, I knew that he understood the kind of whole of government approach and was really dedicated to trying to make sure that we were doing the best we could for our country. His years, his decades of service to America give him a perspective that is very useful. And I mentioned this before, but Henry Kissinger, following up on what Bob had said that it was the first time that he found that the State Department, the White House, and the Defense Department, mostly through Bob and me and General Jones, were all saying the same thing. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have differences of opinion or see issues from slightly different perspectives, but we have an enormous amount of respect for each other. We listen to each other, and we work through, give our best advice to the president, and then support the president's decisions.